Okay, for full transparency, I have not built any clothing brand, but I'm building Cattle to $10 million in annual recurring revenue, which means I'm obsessed with how businesses work and every single model out there. For the past 97 days, I've analyzed more than 50 clothing brands out there to understand how it works. And if I'm to build a clothing brand right here, right now in 2025, this is exactly how I will do it. So let's get started. There are three phases to building any profitable business: the start phase, the growth phase, and then the scale phase. So I'm going to go through each and every single one of these stages and explain to you every single thing I would do in that stage to build a profitable clothing brand. Most people start and they have absolutely no idea how to grow. And those that grow, they have absolutely no idea how to scale. And those that are able to scale, at the end of the day, they crumble. Why? Because their system could not accommodate that level of skill they are trying to reach. So I'm going to tell you how to solve every single problem at these various stages. And probably you can replicate it and to work for you. So the first one is the starting phase. Nobody tells you to start, but nobody tells you how to start. So they're just telling you, get started. And then sometimes you're confused, right? How do I get started? What do I do first? So I'm going to explain to you how to start a profitable clothing business from scratch. Well, the shocker is that you don't just jump into a profitable business, right? You have to start from somewhere. And I will always advise that you start from knowledge, or at least have an idea of what you're trying to do. So here are like a few things I'll have to nail down while getting started. First thing is, what style of clothing brand am I trying to, create? So, it might be casual, it might be formal, it might be cultural, it might be luxurious, it might be streetwear. So there are different niches when it comes to, building a clothing brand. So you cannot just jump in. You have to select a particular niche and then stick to it. So once that is nailed down, the next thing I will do is find out what is the best and the fastest way to create a product. So the product is obviously the clothes. So what is the fastest way to create a clothes? What is the best way to create it? Depending on style of clothing you decided to go with in the first step. The next thing you have to do is consider what kind of people need your product. So what are the kind of people that need what you sell? What kind of people, will patronize that line of clothing brand you're trying to create? So for example, if you're creating a streetwear brand, you will not go and sell it to corporate individuals, right? To be weird. So just like every human have different expression, and the expression is found in what they wear. So you have to nail down the particular audience that like the particular line of clothing brand you are trying to push out. That will help you nail your target audience, or the people you are trying to market to in the first place. Once I've nailed down the exact audience I'm trying to push out my product to, the next thing I'll do is to find out the best way to price it. Pricing is a very, very delicate tool, because if you price too high, you are driving people away. If you price too low, you are leaving a lot on the table. So you have to price just right, or at least try and price it a little bit high, as long as you can pull that audience. And the best way I will nail down my pricing is to look at my competitors, like look at people doing similar clothing line. The clothing industry, I would not say it's oversaturated, but I would say there are a lot of people doing it. So you're not the first person to come up with that product line. I will check out there, okay, this is how much my competitor is pricing their product at. This is their level. This is where I am right now. So what will be the best possible price I can come up with? Obviously, when putting out your price, you have to consider a lot of things, Consider your working capital, consider your profit margin, consider the unit value to produce one product. Once I put this into consideration, I will be able to come up with a very, very sweet price at a very, very sweet spot. And then the next thing I will then have to figure out is best place to sell. Obviously, there are different industries, and the clothing brand is a unique industry in the sense that everybody needs clothes, right? So in a sense, not entirely true, everybody is your target audience. It means anybody that wants to wear clothes is your target audience. But initially, we've nailed down our target audience, right, to a specific group of people. And then the idea is, okay, where do those group of people hang out? Because I've nailed down my target audience, I'll then have to find out where my target audience hang out. Where do I find them the most? What kind of stuff are they looking at on social media, right? What kind of hashtags, what kind of interests do they have out there? So once I nailed all these things down, then I can find out the best place to position my product in order to meet those guys. And not just the best place, the best platform as well. Because every platform, although they're all called social media, every platform has a different edge when it comes to marketing. For example, we know that, if you are into corporate, LinkedIn is probably the best place for you to be in, right? If you're into creativity, then you should, tilt towards TikTok, clothing brand and stuff like that, towards TikTok and Instagram, right? If you are probably building a startup or doing something in that space, and you want to push out your startup and push out your brand, we'll start looking at TikTok to build conversation and rapport around your company. But that's the idea. Find the best place to position your product. And, I found mine. Once I nailed that down, the next thing is to start. And it's very, very simple, right? Since you already have those things figured out, starting becomes easy because you know where to get your product from, you know the fastest way to create it, you know the target audience you're pushing it out to, you know the platform you're going to use for your initial engagement, and you know your competitors because you found them out when you were doing your pricing strategy. And knowing all these things helps you start. And so you get started. Now I'm going to say this: if all these steps I just mentioned takes you more than 48 hours to figure out, then you're probably not ready. Because when you are building a business, especially if you're starting out, the best advantage you have is speed. So it means that the time it takes you to come up with a decision and execute on that decision must be very, very short. If you take a lot of time to start making decisions, you're already behind. So start immediately, which is exactly what I would do. Now, the next stage is the growth phase. This is the critical stage when it comes to, building any business in general or building a fashion brand. I tell you, this phase is extremely important. So there are a few things that will affect your growth when it comes to building a clothing brand. And the first thing is your pricing. I mentioned in the start phase that pricing is a very, very delicate matter. But since we already figured out how to price right, then I believe that should not be an issue, because it's not an issue for me right now because I already figured that out. So what I'll be gunning for next is social proof. And social proof is simple, right? Social proof is finding the initial contact, prove to other people that, oh yes, my line of product is good, my line of product is great, affordable, and every other thing in between. And getting social proof is easy. The thing you have to nail down is getting your first customers. And that should not be an issue because every single one of us have network around us. So you have friends, you have family members, right? When you are building a business, those around you will always be the first touch point to your business, and they will most likely always be your first customers, right? And in a way, if you are giving them enough value, giving them quality clothing, they will become your initial customers. So for me, in getting social proof, what I would do is, when I give someone my clothes or when I sell my clothes to people around me, I make sure I take pictures of them wearing the clothes. I make sure, I get videos of them wearing the clothes, rocking the clothes. I'll also get like a few model or, friends that can serve as model, go into the studio, or if you have photographer friends, partner with them, create model content for my brand. I can also look into like micro-influencing to find friends or close individuals that have micro-influences and can push out your products. Now, here's the trick. If you're going to, meet a micro-influencer to push out your products, you're not going to tell them to buy your product. Obviously not. So what I'll do instead, I'll give out a few samples of my clothes to, some micro-influencers I know as like a gift box with other items, probably like a customized message. And you know how micro-influencers are, right? They always want to do an unboxing. They always want to snap and wear. Them wearing your product in itself, they're in a way promoting it and giving you social proof. Then another thing I will have to nail down is social media. And now this is the beautiful thing, because I mentioned it that we have to take note of this thing when we are starting. So as you can see, every single thing we were able to figure out when starting, we'll need them in the growth stage. So social media, what platform works best for us? So obviously I'm starting a clothing brand. So I'll primarily focus on TikTok and Instagram because that's the best expression for the kind of products that I'm trying to create. And a big mistake I see a lot of clothing brand out there doing is, just snapping pictures and then just posting, or do small video and then they are posting. The fashion industry is extremely competitive, and the clothing brand industry in itself is very, very much competitive. So you have to focus on storytelling. Don't just snap and post. Every line of products you put out should have a story behind them that helps it sell better. So storytelling is something you have to nail. I'm good at storytelling, so I will do that for my fashion brand. So you can do that as well. Then the third thing is to create a repeatable marketing funnel or system. And what that is throughout all these stages, you already have an idea of what works. You already know the kind of content that works. You already know the style of storytelling that captivates your audience. You know the best platform that is giving you the most amount of reach. So with all this knowledge, you create a repeatable system. And what that means is you come up with a strategy, and it can be simple as posting daily. So for example, if I'm coming up with my own repeatable system, I will obviously have to create content every single day and post every single day. Yes, I might be busy, so I might not have to create that content every day. I might take 3 days to batch create content for the next 30 days. And then every single day I'm making an upload. Every single day I'm making a post about my brand, giving it the line of storytelling it requires to sell. If I have enough capital, I can run ads, which is what I will do obviously. I will run ads on the best selling product I have. So obviously from the first stage, doing social proof and every other single thing in between, you would have understood the the line of product that sells best, you would have understood the line of product that sells the most. Then I can run ads on that. The best ad to run is on post or content that is already doing extremely well organically. Because I'm uploading daily, there will obviously be a particular content that did better than the previous ones. So that particular line of product is what I will run as an ad, because I already know that, okay, organically, this particular content works. So I'm pushing it out there. Then the last thing is creator collab. And building a business is all about collaboration. I see a lot of business owners, they're hell bent on competition. But, at the top, everybody is collaborating. Even the top fashion brands we know, right? We can see top fashion brands like Nike, Adidas, all of them collaborating to create a line of products. So it's all about collaboration. Not everything is hard-on competition. So what I'll do is I'll find other creatives or other fashion designers that are into the clothing industry, probably in the same stage that I am, and then we'll collaborate either through social media content we're pushing out there, or we collaborate and create a line of products between our brands, and then we sell it to both of our audience. And then the fourth thing I would do is now double down. And double down is just another word for volume. Most times the solution to every problem when it comes to business is just volume. So I want you to think about it like this. What differentiates a 5-year-old business from a 1-year-old business? Well, I'll tell you it's time, because the 5-year-old business have had 5 years to build their brand, right? It means that they have extraordinary amount of volume in place. The 1-year-old business probably does not have enough volume because you don't have enough time. So if you want to fast track your growth, you need enough volume. I will tell you for free that those guys that you're looking up to, they're not posting once a day. They're not posting twice a day. If you check those guys, they're doing about 100 times what you're doing. So if previously you were posting once a day, turn up the heat, start posting twice a day, or start posting in 2 different platforms. If you're reaching out to people via DM, maybe like 20 in a week, start doing 50, start doing 100, up the game to 50 a day. So it's all about volume. The more volume you put out there, the faster you grow. So for me, doing that, I'll be very, very strategic when it comes to this, because I already have string of data, right? I know things that work from our previous strategies. I will double down on what works. And once I double down, the results will be extraordinary. So if it's influencers that is working well, micro-influencers, if it's the model, the storytelling, if it's TikTok as a platform that is working, or Instagram as a platform that is working, if it's Facebook that is working, if it's paid ads that is working, I will double down on that. Another thing I would do as a side note is name promotion. So for me, doing that is more like creating some sort of event or activity beyond my product. I don't just want to sell the clothes. I want to sell my brand in itself. So creating an event and using my product to sell that event is something that I believe will work for my fashion brand. And the event does not have to be a physical event. It can be an online event. I'll create a named promotion. I can call it all-star fashion event. That if I'm doing like a streetwear kind of brand. And then what I will do there is release different line of products, different style of fashion brand, create an event around it. The event can be an online event where we're talking about how we're able to get the idea for the product, the sketch it took, and you get enthusiasts that are interested in the fashion space, seeing your product in real time. Doing that itself, it not only pushes the brand, it also helps me sell. Now, the next thing I would do is creating a customer database. 90% of clothing brands out there don't have a customer database. So what that means is every single time they are trying to acquire new customers and they are letting go of the old one because they've purchased once. And that's what makes most fashion brands, crumble or not grow. So I have a customer database. The customer database might be an email list. It might be a group chat. And what I'll do is anytime there's a new line of products, I'll give them early access to the drop. I'll give them discounts on the products. I'll give them pre-order access. And most importantly, I'll give them referral perks. What that will do is it will not only help me retain my customers, all the customers I've had, through the lifetime of growing the business. It will also help me build loyalty. It means every new customer that's coming to patronize me, they're not just buying a line of product. They're entering my community and my ecosystem, and they're becoming loyal customers in a way. So you've heard severally now where people will always have plug when they want to buy a product. They always have plug when they want to buy a gadget. Yeah, at least if you're not buying clothes, if you are buying gadgets, you already have your gadgets plug. And then lastly, I'll focus on user-generated content. User-generated content is basically content that's generated by users, so people that purchased your product. And sometimes a lot of people might not post or do something like that. So I'll create some sort of campaign around it that, if you post our line of products and you tag us and you get X amount of views or X amount of likes, you're getting like 20% discount off your next purchase. So that will not only make them a repeating customer, but will also make them push out your content. And then you take that user generated content and then you upload it yourself or you collaborate with them, which is a better thing to do. The idea is you steer the engine for your customers to start creating content for your brand. And this is what big clothing brands out there, they've been able to do because of how recognizable their brand is. So if, for example, someone buys a Chanel bag, they want to show off the bag, right? And that's user generated content because the brand was able to turn that engine. So yes, it might be slow for you getting started, but if you're able to turn that engine, pay you 100 times over in the future. So that's what I would do. And then the last thing is I will track every single thing. I'll track what works. I'll track my customers. I'll track how many times they're buying. I'll put in systems that help me sell over and over again. I'll track my inventory. I'll track which product is selling off quickly. I'll track which content is performing best. So I'll track every single thing. If you're running a business, you have to be obsessed with metrics so you know what works because metrics is data and data tells you a story about your business that no other thing can tell you. And so instead of making decisions, just based off ideas or just based off assumptions, you get to make intelligent decisions that are backed by the data you've collected. So that is what I will do. And then the last thing, obviously, is scale. Now, scale is where a lot of people fail. Some businesses either scale too quickly and fail because they don't have the systems to sustain that level of scale, or they scale and they don't scale enough. So they scale irregularly. So I'm going to explain how I would scale. So let's break down scale. So to score, scale is just an engine. And you're going to ask me, engine of what? Scale is finding what works, cranking it up to like 100x, 200x, 500x, and then automating it. That is it. Sound extremely simple, but it's also complex. So if I want to scale, the first thing I'll do is to automate purchases, then automate fulfillment. And the reason is simple. If you have to be behind every single sale, it's going to be an issue. If the customer have to, come to you, give you cash, or call your account number before they send to you to get your products, you're going to be the bottleneck. And that's something that should be automated. We already have systems that do that. For example, Cattle.io does that. Another thing you need to do is to automate your fulfillment. And automating fulfillment is simple. There are a lot of logistic companies out there, and you can integrate that into your system. Next thing I will do is to expand through the value chain. So when it comes to expanding, there are two ways. You can either expand vertically or horizontally. So vertical expansion is, working your way up to the value chain or down the value chain. A clothing brand, for example, the value chain is looking like you going from just creating the cloth to becoming a supplier of the material itself, then creating the material itself. That's working up to the value chain. Working down the value chain is if you're a supplier, start making the product yourself, start doing the printing yourself, or owning the industry that does that. So that's working down the value chain. So that way you are scaling vertically. Horizontal scaling is a little bit more difficult because that entails you either acquiring your competitors, right, so that you can have more market share. What that means is you looking around you, seeing other competitors you have out there, and then if you can buy them out, you buy them out. Now, obviously, this is probably going to be more difficult for you to do. You are just getting started and you are trying to scale. So buying out competitors right now will put a lot of pressure on your cash flow. So if I'm going to scale, I will go the vertical route. So I'm scaling, I'm building, I will start looking for how to be in charge of how to start sourcing out material either in wholesale or even, become a supplier of the material itself. So I own the supply chain as well as the consumer chain. Then the next thing I will focus on is I'll go for interstate delivery and then I'll go nationwide. So scaling a fashion brand when it comes to global fulfillment is easy because there are solutions out there that help you with logistics. So all you have to do is just fix in your price to accommodate the distance the product is going to travel through to get to your customers. So scaling that light becomes easy. So that is what I will do. And then the third thing I will do is I will optimize for cash flow. Because I'm scaling up, it means I have a lot of orders coming in. So I will probably negotiate with my supplier to get a better deal. If I'm buying in bulk, it means you have to give me way less for every unit price. So I'll spend less when it comes to purchasing because I'm buying in bulk. Then I will invest in my working system. So I already have systems that are working. So what I'll do is I'll focus on reinvesting in my working system over and over again. And that will help me optimize my cash flow. And then the fourth thing is working with teams. Obviously, I should have mentioned this earlier. But I know a lot of us are always skeptical about making use of teams, especially in the growth phase. But when it comes to scaling, you need team. There's no way any business can scale with just one person. You cannot scale your business alone. You need people to man every system you've created. And in a way, those people serve as systems themselves. So I'm building a fashion brand. I'm just going to mention the core people you need. Obviously, you need more, or you need multiple people in these roles. But I'm going to mention the core people you should have when scaling a fashion brand. And I'm saying that because those are the people I will hire. So I'm going to hire designers, right? Because obviously I want to scale up operation. So I need more creative mind. I need more people to man the machines or sew or print. So I'm going to get designers. I don't mean designer for just sewing. I mean designer for putting out creative content. And the beautiful thing is people are multi-talented. You can find a designer that have all these qualities within them and then just hire them. And then my next hire is going to be a marketer. So someone that is extremely skilled when it comes to marketing, both field and online. And then I'm going to hire operation. You are scaling. Operation needs to scale with you, else you crumble. So I'm going to hire someone that will be in charge of operation, making sure every single part of the business works. From the material sourcing, to cutting, to the production phase, to sewing, to marketing, every single level of operation should work. So I'll hire an operator. And then obviously customer service. I'll be in charge of handling every customer complaint, every customer feedback. Person will also be responsible for getting those customer feedback, turning them into data that I can see and analyze and know what our customers are saying as well. And then the last one is creating a community. Creating a community around your brand is something that is very, very important. And it's something I will do. One thing about creating a community is that you don't just get followers. You don't just get fans. You get people that are loyal to your brand. Gurus out there will tell you there's no such thing as brand loyalty, right? That even if your brand fucks up one time, people will leave you. But I'm not trying to throw this, but consistently we've seen some brand mess up either with their new line of product or people are loyal to that brand. For example, Apple, right? Not every product Apple put out is like the best. Sometimes they mess up. But people are very, very loyal to the brand and it has helped them grow. So they created some sort of community around their brand. Obviously, Apple does not have like a group chat or a Telegram channel or a Discord channel for you to join in. Right? But they've been able to create a perception of community within their products. You going the clothing brand route, right? Taking up the fashion industry. It might be nice to probably have a community. And it might be on Instagram. You can create a community on Instagram. Just some sort of interaction where your customers can have a direct feel of your brand. You see a lot of brands out there, they are hosting events, they are hosting, parties, they're hosting a lot of physical get-togethers and stuff like that. They're not doing it for fancy. They're doing it to create a community around their product. So you yourself doing that for your brand will be extremely nice. And I'll always say that you don't have to start physically. You can create a community online. You can create a community with what you have right now. And then from there, you scale. Right? There are a lot of communities that started online. And then once the community had enough resource to host the first physical event, they did it. And the beautiful thing is, I just realized right now that I've been wearing my AirPods. Okay, let's continue. And then the beautiful thing is, at the end of the day, when those guys that have been chatting themselves up online are able to meet physically, it's a very, very beautiful experience. So creating a community online is also a good way to go. So that's what I will do. And every single thing I mentioned is how I will build a clothing brand from start to finish. I believe that if you are building a clothing brand, you find yourself in one of those stages. You can use that to walk yourself to the next level and then scale endlessly. So I'm rooting for you every single time and I hope you do great things with your business. If you've not already done that, you can click the subscribe button somewhere. I don't know where it is, somewhere around, and then do well to share this video. If you have friends out there that are, building their business, and they are giving it their all, they're putting their heart out there to build their brand, to build their business, every piece of information will help them. I'm hoping that you share this with them as well. The reason I do this is to give every single business owner the information and practical strategies on how to grow their business. I want every single business owner, especially in Nigeria and Africa, to win and be able to compete globally. And I'm hoping that through what I'm doing, business owners that are starting out their business with no idea on how to grow or what next to do, they can come here, gain knowledge, and start moving forward. That's the reason I'm putting out all this content. Most of my content are probably someone else's paid content, but I'm giving it out for free. I'm giving it out for free, so you don't have to pay money to gurus that don't know anything to teach you something that you don't understand. At this point, if you are still listening to me, kudos to you. Peace out.